take a walk through woodland areas across our mid-Atlantic and northeastern states now in early summer, and providing the soil is lime-free, you're likely to come across some of these gorgeous native evergreen shrubs. This is, of course, the mountain laurel, or Kalmia latifolia. Now, as you walk through those areas, you can't help but marvel at all of the beauty of the flowers that you'll see in front of you. You'll also see a variance perhaps in the color patterns. You'll see some that are lighter and some that are darker, some that are short and compact and some that are tall and skinny, all different kinds of variants. Now, what happened is that Dick Janes from Broken Arrow Nurseries has spent a lifetime doing that, studying, finding them, and then collecting them, and then using them in a hybridizing program to breed some of the most wonderful varieties that we can grow in our garden today. Take, for example, this gorgeous variety here, one called Kalmia Minuet. For here's one that's short and compact and bushy, only growing about 3 foot high, that was bred from a short variant, a bit like this one here. This is Elf. This is one of his earlier selections. And as you see, this has lovely evergreen foliage, but then absolutely exquisite, but almost white flowers. Then what he did is he took the habit of that and then crossed it with a very rare and unusual form called a banded one that has these absolutely exquisite flowers. The result was a hybrid that he crossed in 1978 and was introduced in 1987 that has a short, compact, squat habit, but also very free flowering habit, and then, as you see, absolutely amazing flowers that are carried in profusion all over its rounded form. This was introduced by Briggs Nursery, and it's one that we've been growing here on the nursery for many years, and quite literally we love it because it has so much going for it. It's nice and vigorous and compact, bushy as you see, and sturdy. And if you're looking to grow this in your garden, what I recommend you do is go for a walk in the woodland. Study how the plants are growing in nature. You'll usually find them growing in partially shaded or perhaps in open sunny locations within the forest. You'll certainly find them growing in rocky, well-drained places, and that's the key to get off to a good start with these. Make sure your soil is free draining. Then I also suggest that you mound up the area that you're going to plant in. Add in some extra soil, but also add in things like pine bark and perhaps pine needles if you can get it. Certainly also you could mix in some leaf mold and maybe some peat. Make a light, fluffy mixture like you would find on a forest floor. That's the stuff that they're going to love to root into and grow. The mounded shape will help with the drainage, but the organic matter that you're putting into the mound will also help retain moisture during the summertime and give them a nice cool root run. Kalmias can be sometimes a bit frustrating to get established. Sometimes they'll grow away beautifully, sometimes they can be a little tricky. So by putting in a bit of effort and making the mound like I'm talking about, I think you'll probably get off to the best possible start. Another thing that's very important is that you choose nice, healthy, well-grown plants like these. Plants that are well-shaped, that are trimmed back. Sometimes these smaller, compact ones tend to look a little thin and straggly if they're not trimmed back in their life. We make a point, as you see, to grow them really bushy and well-shaped. And the other thing to look for is try and get plants that are grown in a pot that's in proportion to the size of pot. In other words, not some big plant in a tiny little squat pot. They're going to be pot bound and probably not transplant nearly as well as the likes of these plants. When you plant it, water it of course until you get them well established, but also I suggest that you put in some pine bark as a deep mulch. 2 or 3 inches of pine bark will help to retain the moisture and keep the roots nice and cool to get them going. So as I say, here's an absolutely exquisite variety. It's called Kalmia Minuet, one that you can grow either as a single specimen, perhaps in amongst some other kalmias or with some azaleas or rhododendrons, or you could also plant this along in, say, naturalized areas in a woodland garden, in a woodland glade. You could create all sorts of interesting, colorful and native areas with this lovely variety. This is Kalmia Minuet.